Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to Tekpon. Today our guest is Katrine, the CMO at Pixelz. Hello.
Hi, Christian. Good to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. At first, please tell us what your company does.
Right. So, Pixelz. You may never have heard about Pixelz, but if you've ever shopped fashion online, I'm relatively certain that you've come across some of our products. Because what Pixelz does is basically post-production. So what that means is like a lot of the big brands and retailers out there, all the content, that visual content that you see on their e-com websites, could be their standard PDP images, could be their editorial campaign work, could be their videos. We help with all their content production needs. So Pixelz is basically a AI-powered platform for all your post-production needs. If you're a bigger, larger fashion brand or retailer, so you may not realize that all the content, all the images, everything you see online, it's edited, retouched somehow. And that a lot of people think that means that we're making the models thinner or something like that. That's actually not what we're doing the majority of time. It's not about making the models look better. Most of the time, it's all about making the products look better. And could be as simple as removing the background, removing dust, color work. There's just a lot of smaller things that are being done to make sure all the products that go out on all the website, they look their best. And essentially, right, for a lot of these retailers and brands, one of the biggest issues within this industry is basically returns. So we want to make sure that the images that you see on the websites are as accurate as possible. So we'll minimize returns and, of course, improve conversion rates. So that's what we do. We developed a platform. It's AI powered. About 70% of the work that we do on a standard e-com image is done by automations, AI. The remaining 30% is done by actual photo editors working in Photoshop. So I think that's probably our secret sauce. It's the hybrid approach, especially in fashion. We're still not at a point where AI is good enough to make sure that a lot of these images are presenting the products the way we want them to. I mean, fashion, we got fabric, we got fur, we got a lot of complicated surfaces that we need to make sure look good. So like I said, 70%, all this simpler stuff is still is being done by AI, automation, all of that. Still, remaining 30%, we've got skilled photo editors doing that work. So that's what we do. Images,
Thank you.
videos,
Thank you for explaining.
editorial work. Sure.
And what do you say is the biggest problems that you face, that you solve for your customers?
Well, obviously, what they're trying to solve are the product images, right? They need good looking product images, could be videos, editorial work, all of that. But what we solve and where we're different is that we're able to do this at scale. Because it's not a huge challenge if you just have small website, few products. You could probably work with freelancer, you can hire someone internally. But when we're talking about e-com retailers, this size of Zalando, they may have thousands and thousands and thousands of new images every single day. They'll send that to us and we'll do all the hard work. So big challenge, of course, and one of the most important things for some of our customers are time to site. So if you have a new pair of Nike shoes, you want to get those online as fast as possible because the first retailer to get those shoes online are probably the one that's going to sell them first. So one of the things that we can do is basically we can get your images back to you within the hour. So it's all about time to site and getting all those images up as soon as you can. So it's time to site, it's time, it's flexibility, scalability. So which is also why our ICP are large retailers, large brands, simply because we're able to turn around their content needs really, really quickly.
And for the professional editors, are they hired by you or are freelancer, or how does it work?
No, they're hired by us. We have a big production team. We have hundreds of photo editors working for us.
And do you see a point in time in the future when it will be 100% automatically by AI, or will it still be a must to have humans involved?
It's a great question. I don't, well, and it also depends on the content types, right? So the standard product images in e-com, some of those are already 100% done just by AI automation. But we also do a lot of campaign work, editorial work. We do a lot of video. So it really, I'd say it really depends on the requirements for the brands that we're talking about. We're also working for a lot of very high-end brands, and they would definitely not be happy with like a fully automated solution. Right. Because there is still, like when it gets really high scale, it's still an art form, right? Like photo editors some of the photo editors are essentially artists.
Yes.
So it really depends on the product. It depends on the brand. It depends on a lot of different things. But of course, we have been moving toward a higher and higher and higher percentage of automations in the past years. So we'll see. And another thing that we're, of course, right now starting to work with. We've got the AI models coming up. We're working on creating AI models for some of our existing customers as well. We've got the AI generated backgrounds, also something that we're working with. So we're definitely moving into a lot of new content forms and content types that we didn't see the industry working or even thinking about just a few years ago. So it's a very interesting time to be working with content and visuals, that's for sure.
I totally agree. It seems super exciting. How does the pricing work?
Well, we do have a subscription, a few different plans, but then after you pay for the subscription gives you access to our platform where you're able to log in. You can upload images. You can create your own templates. You can have a lot of data, a lot of insights. You can do rejections. So there is a platform that you get access to with the subscriptions, but then you also pay a per image price, and that varies widely based on the type of work that you need done on specific types of images.
Yeah, makes sense. And can you share a favorite success story of yours of how you helped a certain brand and the results basically?
Sure. I guess one thing that stands out for me, and without mentioning any specific retailers or brands, but one of the bigger department stores that we work with, they basically have a fully automated workflow. They don't have their own photo studio. They don't shoot themselves, right? So they just receive vendor images from a ton of different brands, and of course they want. So it means that the images that they receive from the brands, they all look different. They're all different sizes. They all have different backgrounds. If you just uploaded all of that to the website, it would be a wildly inconsistent look. It wouldn't look good. So they still need to do a lot of work on those images to actually make those brand images from the brands look good on their website. But the very cool thing about that workflow and the work that we do for them is that retailer or that department store, they never actually touch the images. We receive the images straight from the vendors. We do all the work that needs to be done, and we make sure that those images, they go straight up on their website, and they don't even look at them before they go up. So I think that's just a pretty cool example of some of the work that we can do behind the scenes that just makes lives so much easier for some of our customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. And about the market, how competitive is it for you?
That's a really interesting question. It's competitive in the sense that there are a very large number of smaller competitors in the market. There are a lot of Indian, Bangladeshi companies doing the same thing that we do. I think the biggest difference is that they are almost like 100% manual, right? They'll do all the work, all the images that they are sent. It'll be done manually by photo editors. So that means that consistency will suffer. It also means that flexibility will suffer because you basically need people, photo editors, to do that work, right? So at one point, when you reach maybe around 1,000 photo editors, your company is no longer an image editing company. It becomes sort of like just trying to manage photo editors. It's just too many people. It's just way too manual. And we've learned that, right? That's sort of like the breaking point for how many people you're able to really manage while you're trying to do high quality retouching. So most of these companies never really grow much beyond that point. And I think that's really our competitive differentiator, right? The fact that we have so much tech and so much AI that we've been able to grow way beyond that point. So that's the interesting thing about the market. And now I'm talking about the worldwide market.
Yes.
It's very, very fragmented. There are not a lot of clear market leaders or clear competitors. We are without comparison, the market leader within this niche. And then most of the competitors that we do come across are smaller companies. And we're like, who are they? We've never heard about them. What do they even do? Where are they based?
Yeah.
So it's a bit of an interesting market to be in, just because there aren't a lot of clear market leaders, especially not if we look at globally.
This is good for you, but I'm curious to know about your founding story. So how did the company start?
Sure. And that's a great question. And it's also, I think, a pretty good story. So I think Pixelz was founded 13 years ago. So I've been with Pixelz for 4 years now. So that's like well beyond my time.
Okay.
But I love this story because basically the people who started Pixelz are tech and product people. They didn't have a background in fashion or in retouching or photo editing or anything like that. They were tech people, product people, and at that time, they were running a digital agency, and they were building beautiful websites, e-com websites for a lot of retailers,
yes,
fashion retailers. But so they would build beautiful websites, hand them over. But then what happened as soon as these retailers started uploading product images to those websites, it would just ruin everything, right? Because the images were terrible.
Yeah.
They would have like weird backgrounds, different backgrounds, and it wouldn't look good. So the product images were essentially destroying the beautiful websites that they had just built.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh, okay, I guess we have to solve this problem too. Not just build beautiful websites. We also have to solve the issue of like terrible product images. So they started providing that service as well on top of developing and building websites. And at some point, that service of editing, retouching images probably took over a bit, became even bigger because there was that need in the market. And that's when they started Pixelz. But back then, Pixelz was called Remove the Background. So we still own that domain, removethebackground.com. And that's essentially a big part of probably in the very, very beginning. That was essentially what they did, right? Was removing the background from the product images just to make sure that the website would look much better. But then after a few years, removing the background. It's still part of a lot of the work we do, but it's bread and butter, right? You can do that on your iPhone now. For every single image, right? It's just it's such a small part of the work that we actually do on all the content. So I guess at one point they realized that name was holding them back a bit or a lot maybe, and they changed the name into Pixelz. And that's how Pixel was born. And then, like I said, in the beginning, all just completely manual, just photo editors sitting there doing their work. They also, because they didn't have a background within the fashion industry or retouching or anything like that. They realized, because they were product people, they were tech people, they realized there's got to be a smarter way to do that. This type of work. We have to build AI, we have to build a platform, we have to create all this amazing tech that can enable us to produce images faster and smarter and better. So that's what they set out to do. And that's essentially the company we are today, where we have a hybrid approach to the image editing that we do, where, the majority at this point is done by AI tech and automations, but we still have a lot of photo editors doing the last touches. So just one of those stories, right, where you're organically building a product based on like a need that you see in the market.
Yes.
And something that you didn't necessarily set out to do, but like the need and the demand was big enough for that to grow into a company. So it's a pretty cool story. And the fun fact is that digital agency, it still exists.
That was my next question. It's a great story. Thank you for sharing it. And how big is the overall team today?
Our development team?
Overall.
Oh, just overall team. This is another great question. I'm not really 100% able to answer, but I would say at this point, I believe we are between 400 and 500 people. With the majority of these people are in our production facilities in Hanoi and Da Nang in Vietnam. And then we've got offices and people scattered a bit all over the place. I've got our US headquarters in San Diego, European headquarters here in Copenhagen. Then we've got offices spread out across Europe and the US as well, where we got CS and sales and marketing and all of this.
How big is the marketing team?
We're currently 8 people. Onboarding another person in a few weeks. So it's it's a relatively for covering essentially we have customers all around the world, right? But since we've only got sales and CS in Europe and US, that's essentially the markets that we're covering. With about 60% of our revenue, I believe, coming from the US, about 40% from Europe. So those are the 2 markets that we're covering. So we're 9 people. Currently 8 people, soon to be 9 in marketing.
And how does your day-to-day look as the chief marketing officer? What's your, let's say, role, responsibilities? What do you do?
We're doing a few different things, right? Of course. So because our ideal customer profile, it's the really big brands and retailers out there.
Yes.
That are shooting. Most of them have their own photo studios. They're shooting themselves. They have a really big need for content production. So we do a lot of account-based marketing. So it essentially means that, we've done a lot of work in terms of just looking at our existing customer base and understanding who's our best customers, just from not just from a revenue perspective, who's our largest customers, but of course that's also important, but also who's our happiest customers, right, and why are they so happy? Why are they such a good fit with what we do? So we've done a lot of that work right now. And maybe this is, I don't know, it's probably it's not the 80-20 rule, but it's like the 60-40 rule, I think right now. I believe around 60% of our revenue comes from 1% of our customers. So that just shows us, right, that it's the big ones, the ones that we like to call the whales. They're essentially the ones that are moving our business forward. So it's an interesting exercise, right? You look at your best customers, the happiest customers, and you just try to, and then again, it's not that hard, right? Because then you have a long list of brands and retailers. There's a ton of them. You just see, look at your existing customers, and then you go out and you find the ones that are the closest fit to your existing best customers. And then you got your account list. And then we've got, I think at this point, we've got about 400 and something target accounts on our account list. We do prioritize those every single quarter, which ones are we going after.
Yes.
And then we work in marketing, we work very, very closely with the sales team in figuring out how do we get the sales team in front of these people from these companies, and how do we build those relationships and get that face time. And that's a really big part of what we do in marketing, is working on those target accounts with the sales team, figuring out how we get closer to the right people. So that's a big part of it. Of course, we also do a lot of digital marketing. We do paid search. I mean, we want to make sure that we're
everywhere.
Top of the Google results page, right? If someone searches for retouching agency, stuff like that. We do a lot of content as well. We do, and then of course we've got our whole event part of the experience part, but that's really essentially a big part of the ABM play as well. It's where we get to go and talk to and meet the right people from our target accounts. We're basically creating that opportunity, that space to go and do that. So that's a big part of what we do in marketing. And I do believe, because we're a relatively small team, relatively limited resources, and then we still got, I mean, the opportunities are endless, right? I mean, so I really think that account-based and trying to narrow down which accounts are you going after and why, it helps us a lot in figuring out how to prioritize our time and resources. Yeah.
And what would be your best piece of advice for a company that wants to start out doing account-based marketing?
Well, of course, I mean, first up, account-based is definitely not fit for just any B2B company, right? First of all, you want to make sure that your deals have to be really large. Your sales cycles are probably like very long and probably got like a ton of different people as part of those sales cycles. And if that's not the case, then don't try and do account-based. So that's probably not for you. So first of all, you want to make sure that your ICP, your product or service is actually fit for the account-based approach, because otherwise it's just a waste of time.
Right.
And when you when you know that's the case, then I think what's really, really important is really understanding or nailing your positioning. And the way you do that is, again, it's basically you need to go out and you need to talk to your best customers and figure out why is the fit such a good fit? Why are they so happy? What are the things that we solve for them? And with that, you are able to build your positioning, your messaging, and really, really try to narrow that down. I think what I see often, and this is not just talking about account-based marketing in general, right? A lot of companies are trying to be, they think they need to be everything for everyone, because they don't want to limit themselves. Because they're afraid of missing out.
Yeah.
But if you don't do that exercise and try to really be very, very targeted in your approach, targeted in terms of what types of companies are you going after? Why are you going after them? Why does that make sense? If you don't do that exercise, I mean, you cannot be everything to everyone, right? So you have a much, much better chance of trying to be really niche and just trying to narrow your target audience down as much as you can and narrow your messaging and positioning down as much as you can. Because now all of a sudden you are relevant to the right accounts. And I think that's where most of companies who are just starting out might be failing because they think they need to be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're nothing to anyone anymore. So just try. I know it may feel a bit counterintuitive, at least in the beginning, but try to be with your messaging, try to be as narrow as you can, and with your targeting the same thing. Try really to nail down your target group instead of just trying to talk to everyone. I think that's probably my my biggest advice, and
Thank you so
something
much.
that I see a lot of people struggling with.
Yeah, I appreciate this. And in regards to challenges, what was your biggest challenge that you faced throughout these 4 years, or some lessons learned, mistakes made, something that you can share with other
That's a great
people?
question. So and probably for me specifically, I come from B2B, but I come from accounting software. And this accounting software that was like for small and mid-sized businesses, just a very, very different approach.
Right.
Short sales cycles. Attribution was not really an issue. So for me, coming in, working with much, much larger accounts, that's just a completely shift I had to do like a complete shift in mindset, right? Especially in terms of what are the channels that we're working with, what are the tactics, the strategies that are working within this industry, and also really just trying to understand the industry. And I think when it comes, I mean, at least within this industry, right? But I think it's probably similar for a lot of when you're in the enterprise sales market, right? I think so much comes down to relationships. At least what I found is that this industry is just so relationship driven. And digital just doesn't cut it. Zoom meetings probably doesn't cut it most of the time when we're talking about like really big deals, right? So it's really, really all about getting that face time, building those relationships, building that trust, that thought leadership, making sure that you're the market leader, that you're top of mind, and all the brand awareness, all those activities that goes hand in hand with all of that. It's really a long-term game. You really need to work very, very closely with your sales team. And you also need to have I want to say an organization behind you that understands that this is a long-term game, that deals take very long time, and all of that. So get that buy-in. And if you don't have that buy-in, go market yourself and what you're doing internally first. So you at least do whatever you can to get that buy-in, to get that understanding, and then go spend as much time as you can with your sales team. And don't think that this is something marketing can do without sales. I've said this a million times before, but I think the biggest misunderstanding when it comes to account-based marketing is the M, right? The M is like, this is not a marketing strategy. This is a go-to-market strategy, and it's not something that we are able to do without the sales team or without the CS team. So it really requires the organization to work closely together across departments. Otherwise, it's really going to be an uphill battle.
And we arrived at the last part of the podcast where I'd like to learn more about yourself, how you started your career, and walk a bit through your journey.
Ooh. So I've always, I want to say, worked in digital marketing. At least that's where I started. I used to spend most of my time, especially when I first started out, behind behind the screen, Google Analytics, Google Ads, Meta, LinkedIn, just sort of, I still feel like I'm pretty comfortable hiding with all the analytics and all the data and all of that. But also now the truth is, we're getting less and less access to all the data. Marketing is not an exact science. It's really not, and it's been moving late 15, 20 years ago when I first started, right? You had so much data. It was much easier to see what actually worked. So for me, I think I've moved from all the analytics driven, data driven marketing, digital marketing, where you could very easily calculate the return on investment of just down to the ad group or down to the keyword in Google, right? There was a time where Google gave us the keywords from organic searches.
Yeah.
So, but we used to have access to all that data. And I think just through those years, right? I worked in digital agencies. I worked with e-com. Spent most of my time, at least in the past 10 years, working with tech, software as a service, B2B. And I think now also when I'm working with much larger deals, right? We've gone back to more of a sort of like the madman approach to marketing, where we have to rely a bit more on, when I say intuition, intuition is part experience, part knowing what you've seen before works,
Yes.
right? So it's really just experience and creativity, maybe a mix of that, but trusting your gut a bit more, and especially when you work with brand awareness, with events, all these different types of channels. I used to not enjoy that or like that as much, just because it's much harder to navigate and contribute and prove. And I used to want to do that all the time, and now today I think I'm just much more of I've become more of a believer in brand awareness, in top of mind, in all those things that are so essentially like really, really hard to measure, right? Yeah. So I guess that has been my personal growth journey when it comes to working with marketing and trying to figure out how to prioritize budgets.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. I have one last question for you. What's your favorite software that you use in your day-to-day, but apart from Pixelz?
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, we're a remote, very distributed team. So we've got people on the marketing team. Like I said, we're only 8 people. We've got a few people in Hanoi. We've got Barcelona, we got Prague, we got Copenhagen. So we're basically all over the place. So we spend a lot of time in Notion, just working together there, of course, Slack, the Google Suite, all of that. I mean, so for working purposes, day to day, that's it's all those collaboration tools, right? But if I can highlight just one piece of software that I love to spend time in, also with my analytics background, I think I have to highlight Dream Data, because especially with sales cycles that can easily be 12 to 24 months, right? Dream Data is where I go and I'll study the sales cycles, and I just love to study every little single data point, touch point. And I do that on a account level, right? I'll go in and you can see exactly, which people within the account was part of the journey. You can even, LinkedIn impressions. You're able to see, okay, they were shown this many LinkedIn, impressions, not just clicks, but impressions and video views. Just really trying to understand those customer journeys. What was the first touch point? What was the last touch point? And then everything that's in between. Offline touch points like events as well. We've got all of that good stuff in there. And then the fun part, right? I mean, we all talk about sales cycles as you can like find like the truth, but you can't, like each sales cycle is so unique and so individual, right? So but going in there and studying them and trying to figure out what actually happened here, what was the touch points that essentially made a difference. So I do like to spend a lot of time in Dream Data, and I do like also just the attribution part. Because I do believe some channels, we need to judge some channels by first touch, other channels by maybe last touch. And I think that's extremely valuable, again, when I try to prioritize the budgets that I do have in the best way. So I have to give a shout out to Dream Data and just, I guess, attribution software in general. When you work with big, like really large deals and long sales cycles and ton of stakeholders, I think that's extremely useful.
Yeah, thank you for this testimonial. We'll definitely share it with them. And yeah, I appreciate you joining us. Thanks for all the value provided, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much for having me. You too.